Judy Estrom will be joining us in a moment. She just let me know she's arriving in the parking lot. Welcome to the Arts and Design Committee meeting. It's called to order to the meeting. I believe we now have a quorum with Judy on the way. So everything, and here she is. Okay. All right. So we have a number of things we want to get through today and get this rolling. All right, so the first thing I'd like to do is call the meeting to order. We do have the necessary quorum. We've established it. Next question I have for us is on our agenda is to any questions or enhancements or clarifications for the minutes from April 6th. If we don't have any clarifications or qualifications, I'd like to call for someone to state that they approve the minutes.
Approve the minutes.
Okay, second?
Second.
Okay. Is it, I assume there's unanimous for the approval? Okay. Project recommendations is next. The thing we want to talk about is projects that anybody has identified that are new that we would like to start pursuing. Does anybody here have anything they would like to talk about? Okay, I did have an idea, and that idea, it pertains to the flags that we have there, and I'm just throwing this out as an idea. So the idea I had was for us to be able to take the state flags and work with the veterans and see if we can place those underneath the American flags on the Boulevard of the Flags. Kind of goes along with the concept of e pluribus unum, from many one. So by putting each one of the flags underneath the American flag, it kind of shows the unity of the country. Sorry?
Tom Jones, 110390. I'm with the group that puts I don't belong to the American Legion, but I work with the American Legion, and we put the flags up and take them down along R.H. Johnson. My wife also helps put them up, and she mends them when they become tattered. And so we have certain size flags, and on the perimeter of this parking lot, there are no parking signs on the poles on the street. And therefore, we have to have a shorter flag, because otherwise the flag will fly and catch the sign and rip the end of it. So there is a problem with the flags. There's only one standard on each flag. So if you're, and we put them up, and so I don't know how you're going to do that, but just be aware of that, and especially the ones right out here. But the American Legion, the post, I don't remember what, is involved with doing that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Are there any other ideas? One idea that's been presented to me on a sidebar is to work with the metal shop to potentially put in artwork where the Stardust Theater is. Things like musical notes. What's that thing that they do for drama with the masks, one smiling, one frowning, or to put something up like there. Does anybody see any benefit to that process of starting it? Shelley, you have ins with the metal shop, as you mentioned.
Yeah. Well, an individual or individuals would take that on. They work independently. So I guess you would just put it to their, see who would volunteer for it.
Richard, there is a Stardust committee that we'd have to work with on that.
So
it's called Stardust Council, and they have to be included. I'm on that, and they have to be included.
This sounds good. Does anybody have anything else? Any other ideas that they'd like to put out there for now? All right, so then moving along, project presentation. I guess this is where I stand up at the podium and do it. We've made a lot of progress, thanks to everyone. And basically now we're going to the next steps where we get funding to start completing the projects. So we pulled together the slide that we're going to present to the Properties Committee, and we wanted to show that to you today. So get on up there. You hear me? All right. All right. Here it is, the Arts and Design Committee. All right. What am I doing wrong here? Okay. Thank you. Batteries? The Achilles heel of all technology, batteries. All right, Art and Design Committee. Okay, now the problem with that. Is this on? Okay, there we are. Let's get started with, all right, one we're calling here the aluminum artwork. This is essentially aluminum, a large slab of aluminum, a sheet of aluminum with ceramics on it. It's ready to go. It is targeted, or we are recommending that it be hung in the Kuntz hallway with a cost of $1,200. Whoops, back one. And here is an example of what it would look like. Essentially, as far as hanging is concerned, it would be hung by like any other picture. If it's in the Kuntz, because it is aluminum, it would be recommended that it be away from any type of caustic material, such as chlorine, bromine. Obviously, you wouldn't want to hang it in where they have the spa area, which I'm sure nobody would want to do anyway because of the artificial marble that's there. The next one. This one will be painted by the Art Club. It is for outside display. What they need is a wooden panel. It needs to be painted. The panel itself is 8 foot by 10 foot at a cost of $800. Again, it's planned for the Kuntz courtyard. We can't use the woodworking club because this wood is a special treated with a gesso, is what I've been told. A vendor has been selected. This would be what would be produced and then hung up. It's Van Gogh's, whatever it is, cafe. And it would be very bright, and again, 8 foot by 10 foot. Lizard Acre quilt, all right. It's ready to go. The lizard, it was donated by the Quilt Club, and it's agreed to be displayed and is ready. It would be planned for the lecture hall foyer. The challenge that we have with it is because it is a quilt and would be more of a permanent display, the container for the quilt itself would have to be somewhat of museum quality. And a museum quality containment to permit maximum viewing and to protect the quilt from damage due to UV, heat, touching, or handling by somebody else. It would need to be attached to the wall, and the size would be approximately 47 inches by 62 inches. What I see here is analogous to is there is a quilt that is on display at the library. It is very pretty. It has library bookshelves, etc. And it has an excellent, looks like, containment unit to it. There we go. And so this would be an example of the Lizard Acres. A bit of history here, I guess, with it as they explained it to me, is prior to Sun City being built, there was a ranch here or something called Lizard Acres. And this is basically what it was similar to. So when you look closer at the panels, what you notice is they have some of the original buildings that were associated with Lizard Acres. So it's kind of like a bit of a history as they're coming in to the foyer. The next one is the Blue Wave. It's currently one bid for $4,990. Reaching out to the Metal Club to see if they can produce, and its location would be at the R.H. Johnson Pool. Reviewed the bid and artwork with facilities. The following questions from facilities would need to be answered. One, how it would be attached to the wall. Who attaches it, the facilities or the vendor. Important for facilities, can the artwork be removed if the wall needs to be painted and or repaired? How will it wear? And of course, safety issues. This would be like an artist's rendition of what it would look like. This would be up against the R.H. Johnson wall. I can see where their concerns would be, as it is metal, approximately 8 feet. If it fell down, that could be an issue. But we could look at the metal shop, and it's my understanding they can't cut something that is 8 foot, but they can cut something maybe that's 4 foot. Kuntz tile. This one here was recommended. 6 pillars to be surrounded with the tile. Vendor to perform all required work. We know that the vendor is licensed and bonded. The bid that they put in is $4,948. We would need property approval because this would be more of a permanent modification. God, I'm bad at this thing. This is the original existing pillar. And this is how it would look with the blue tile put around it. As I understand it, unfortunately, when this was pulled together, it was pulled together upside down. The tile itself would be, inverted. Okay, all right. The next one here is more of an aesthetic. It is an extra large utility outdoor patio prep station with storage. I won't even attempt to pronounce the word. This would be utilized to replace existing utility tables, measures approximately 35 by 21 by 53, stainless steel top, commercial grade. Purpose, provide stable and an attractive serving station for all Kuntz events. Cost $219.99. At this point in time, need is only for one. And there's a picture of it. Okay, and that should end the slideshow.
I have a question. The prep station, I don't see that as an artist type thing.
Say again? It's part of the design.
The design. Okay. No?
Okay. If you saw what was there now, you'd go, okay, and what basement are we in now? It's not nice, but yeah, it's aesthetics.
Are there any other questions? Jack?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I got a question going back to the aluminum artwork. I don't see much details. I don't know the size that is. Nor which hallway in Kuntz it would be placed.
Sure, if you can check the folder.
Thank you.
Okay, this is planned to go in the hallway, the entryway between the workout room and the pool. On the inside, it's, as you walk in the far left door in the front, it will be that wall. And we've measured it, and it fits perfect. It is, the measurements are 36 by 48 inches.
Is there any artwork that's currently there in that spot?
There is one little thing that's there, and it's not good there. And Frank knew that before he left, but he didn't have time to change it out. It's a tiny little, it's about this big, and the wall is this huge. It's this little thing,
Okay.
this big.
Thank you.
Are there any questions from the audience in attendance? All right, from the committee, this is what we plan on presenting to the Properties Committee tomorrow. Are there any additions, addendums, corrections that anybody would like to add? Else, if not, I'd like to ask the committee, do you believe that we can proceed with this and keep on going? So it's unanimous? All right, thank you. I'll keep this. Right. The next is going to be a committee evaluation procedure. As I understand it, they're going to be sending out a questionnaire. Here's a link. And then you're to, answer it as honestly, obviously honestly. And then it's an evaluation of how you feel the committee and the procedures and everything else has gone. So I would highly suggest, recommend, and encourage you to fill this out. Okay, any questions on that? Other discussions? Okay, does anybody have any other topics they'd like to bring up?
I'd like to know what the status is of the inspirational sayings that I've passed along.
We were trying to just get our ducks in a row here and get the projects that we had really, really going. Then we're going to continue. That's not out of the question. It's just priorities for now. And that's one of the top priorities, but not one of the top 5. But yeah, it's still here.
Okay, thank you.
Don't worry about it. It's there.
Anything else? All right, I'd like to bring up something, and I want to give thanks to Sue and everybody that's here. This is, I think, the first time we've gotten to the point of being able to finance or ask for money to be able to complete these projects. I know there's been a rockiness to it. Sometimes we've gone down blind alleys, but have come back. So this will be, I think, the first time that we, if I'm not mistaken, the first time that we've made it actually through the process and gotten money, gotten funding, and gotten these things completed. So one of the things that's going to be my assignment is to document this so we know in the future exactly what we're supposed to do. Okay. Do we have any other things either from the audience or from staff? Sue?
For the committee to be able to identify maybe a list of things that you still would like to work on, and that goes to Candy's point, because I know that there are a lot of other issues that we don't want to lose. So maybe just kind of brainstorm right now and make a list of those things. I know we talked about the painting of the little dogs on the fence. And then I had a specific question. I'm wondering what happened to the plan for the lobby to the R.H. Johnson pool. At one point, we had spoken about putting some art from our local artists up on a large wall, and now I see that that wall is totally empty. So was there a plan then to put some either photographs or something in that spot?
I'm not sure yet, but as you recall, we lost a lot of members that were in charge of the different
Right.
rec center venues, so things
Right.
kind of got moved around a little bit, and you're right, we need to sit down and continue the list of what we had proposed, so that we're just not focusing, but we're expanding it out as well. Thank you, Sue, for that.
If I
suggestion.
might, I've been involved in the photo club, and we've been putting the photographs in the social hall on the one right side. And now that the construction's being done there, we've taken them down for safety reasons. And Jack's agreed to go ahead and put them back up once it's together. We did want to put some in this R.H. Johnson pool area, and I'm not sure what's going on with the design, but I think they're trying to work something out. Maybe you know, Jack.
Which wall were you specifically referring to?
The one right opposite the coffee and shake bar.
Yes, so there's been some thoughts and some consideration of using that for some slat board for merchandise.
I don't know what a slap board is.
It's where you can hang different items off of the wall, kind of like you have at some of the pro shops.
Oh, okay.
What about that long blue hallway?
That's Battleship Gray, not blue.
Oh, okay.
I'm kidding. So I am looking for some inspirational pieces if somebody has some. I prefer not something that revolves, something a little more permanent, something kind of grand and big. I know a handful of committee members pitched some ideas for some large canvases, but I didn't see anything come to fruition. One of the things that got pushed to the back, I think.
Okay.
Now, the inspirational you're talking about for the exercise facilities?
Correct, and our locker rooms as well.
I
Okay.
think it would be nice to have photographs of the different clubs in activities there, because a lot of people tour there but don't always get to see, clubs or what they're doing and so on. So that might be a nice thing. It'll help market our clubs, but it'll also be very interesting and have a variety of people in it, our actual people.
That'd be a great idea. I could ask the art photo club to do something like that, if everyone approves, of course.
Okay, and then I have another comment. I think I'd like to have the committee consider how they would like to continue and whether or not they want this group to continue. Because it's a special committee of the governing board, it has to be approved each year or it doesn't exist. And typically, special committees are just for a short period of time, usually for a year or two, and then that's about it. So this committee has been in operation since a year ago, last March, I think it started. So I think you need to have some conversation maybe at your last meeting. I'm assuming you'll have one in June again, about what you would like to ask the new president to continue or to merge with someone else, another group, maybe merge with properties, or how you'd like to operate, and whether or not you would feel that this needs to continue as a viable group. So, I would charge you with kind of thinking about that and then coming to some decision-making and then communicating with Tim Hurley, who will be the new president, to what he recommends to the board.
That's an interesting question. Most special committee, like you said, have a lifespan of 2 years. So if we go beyond 2 years, does that mean we have to transition into being a full committee, like permanent? Or does it mean we can continue with the special committee status?
Well, you would have to make that decision, and that decision will really be made by the governing board based on, your recommendations and, all kinds of other factors, whether or not it should become a permanent committee. We call them standing committees. And that has changed over the years. There have been a number of standing committees that have been eliminated, changed, so that's not an uncommon thing. Typically a special committee isn't going to go on for 3 years or more than that. So I think you want to have those conversations, and maybe you'd like to have Mr. Hurley, involved in those discussions when you talk about that.
Okay, which kind of dovetails into a question I have on procedure. And we do have senior people here. Tomorrow, we make a presentation to the property committee. So it's my understanding that it's not either yay or nay from them. It's more of an advisory before we get before the governing board. Now, I understand we do have a budget, $30,000, none of which has been spent, if I understand that correctly. So my question is, when we get before the board, do they have to vote on the expenditures, or is this also advisory and we're able to simply to spend the money out of the $30,000 budget?
Which kind of dovetails into what Sue was saying, because we've gotten it's been taking us so long to get things moving, so to speak. I have to see this committee moving on a little bit longer if we can, so we can get the extended projects that we've also talked about going. So, and that would be my recommendation. But yeah, we need to figure out the funding methods here.
Here comes Pete.
Thank you, guys. Nothing profound here to say other than it's been my understanding is when this committee was formed that like any of the other 5 existing committees, they really don't have any spending authority. And you just go down the line, properties, name something that they do that expends or even B&F with the money. They don't. So the governing, you're always in a recommendation mode. And so I think the answer is pretty obvious that the governing board, you know, whether it's a line item approval, that's up to the president, you know, or en masse. My instinct is that you're doing it the right way by the changing of the venues, properties should be involved. The allowance has already been done, so I don't see where B&F would be needed. And just roll to the only thing that you did mention, and nothing exceeded the 5,000, that would start to create a whole nother dynamic. So be aware of that. If you do get something that it moves past that and has a 5-year life, we in accounting would have to then go into our capital allowances. Of course, once again, given the nature of this being approved by the governing board, this would not be where we typically go into that allowance and have general manager approval. That's kind of thrown out the door because this is something that's changing the properties, and I do believe the governing board has to be involved. That's just the way I understand it.
Kind of a follow-up question. I'm assuming that we're going to get approval from the governing board, being optimistic, et cetera. So once we get approval, do we get an invoice cut? Do we have to cut a PO? Who do I go through then? I mean, I'm actually looking for, as we used to say, who has the power of the pencil? Who actually signs the check and gets it out the door?
Yeah, we would always want to manage it in our accounting. I really don't want to avoid the gory details of how we would do that, but a purchase order would be correct. And then we are assigning the general ledger that's been assigned within our budget. Cliff and I were just talking up there that you are approaching June 30th. Generally speaking, by accounting principle, if it's not received in by that date, then it doesn't follow accounting principles of saying that it should be accrued. So you are a little bit on the clock here. If you're going to try and get this approved at the upcoming governing board, you got kind of a month to expedite if you can, but it sounds like you already got a lot of that arranged. We have other methods of doing that. If you've got an actual commitment and it's just a shipping delay, then you can make allowances too. So.
Thank you.
So is there any way you can get a special session of the governing board for this earlier?
Well, we have a workshop on the 13th, and then we follow up at the end of the month. I think it's the 26th for voting, but I don't see this as a vote. I see this as a consensus agreement from the board because the money has already been approved by the board because it's in the budget. I look at it a little bit differently, I guess. None of our other committees, of course, are dealing with funding. However, when the Properties Committee finds that there's some peeling paint in an area, they talk about it, and Russ goes ahead and has it done out of the budget. So to me, this is a little bit the same. Jack would go ahead and do the ordering because the board has already approved that money as a part of the operating budget. So my perspective is a little bit different. So if it's just a consensus, we can reach that at on the 13th. Otherwise, if a vote is required, well, then we're looking at the end of the month.
Okay, then that.
Does
kind of
that,
answers-
does that allow you enough time or not?
Oh, we'll have to see. I think we have everything ready to go. We just need to get before the property committees and then the go-ahead from the board. And then you've answered my question. Once we know that the PO has been cut, which I'm sure that doesn't take that much time, then I would go to Jack, and then Jack would do the ordering. Is that correct? Yep.
Your advisor handles the funds. We don't want you doing a PO. You give the information to Jack, and as a staff person, he deals with that, just the same as in the example I just gave. You know, Russ takes care of it, or Carl takes care of it, that kind of thing.
All right. It sounds like as if we have the process and the procedure, we have everything ready to go. Now it's just getting it through the appropriate authorizations and approvals. Okay? And then at what point in time, because I know the committee members have to apply, as all committee members do, as we change out for their positions. But the other challenge I have is, I know the special committee would be approved probably by the end of May, or are we on for June?
The committee chairpersons and the committees for the next year are approved by June, so.
So then I would say to the committee members, let's apply for the positions, and if the committee continues, we're all set to go, else if not.
So the applications are, as you complete the evaluation, it leads you directly to the application. I think this year, if you've already recently filled one out, you don't have to do another one, but somehow that communication needs to go to Karen so that she develops the list.
All right, thank you. That's pretty good on the process and the procedures. As I said, this would be one of the first times we've gotten through it. So this should be, I'll document it so that we know exactly what we need to do, also the timelines and the lead times that we need. All right, is there any other discussions as far as opportunities that we may have identified for further artwork, projects that we may want to do, inspirational messages? I'm on the administrative side, so you have to tell me what is inspirational. Work harder, lift more, I don't know. Okay.
I suggest that we maybe come up with 5 things that we have talked about each, and then we can pull them together as soon as we can, maybe via email, and get a list going, because I don't know all of the things. I don't think any of us remember all of the things. I mean, I could. Oh, you will? Oh, wonderful. Okay, good. Thank you.
If you guys apply for continuing of this, and if you're successful, great. My instinct would be that you might want to have a standing item that displays your allowance status as part of your agenda. Once a PO is issued, then you can knock it down from your allowance. If there are some stray dollars that occur outside of this, which is, Jack, I think, referenced that earlier. Occasionally there's small expenditures that somebody just on the side is doing. But we have that all going to one general ledger now, so we will always be able to track, but it's when you issue a PO, then knock it down, and then you'll always know where you're at. So.
Thank you. One other thing I'd like to point out in dealing with Jack and Russ and others, particularly when we want to hang something. Facilities, we need to consider how it's going to be hung, the safety of it. And I think at times, like, I'm not picking on anybody or saying anything, when we do the blue waves, that would be a prime example of how is it going to be attached, who's going to attach it, are there any safety issues that we have to consider, or environmental issues? Is it going to rust? Is it going to fade? Potentially, is it going to fall down? I don't know. But these are things that sometimes we need to ask the vendor about or whoever's doing it, so that we have a good understanding of what we're installing. Because I can understand it from Russ and Jack's standpoint. They go into them and they say, well, how are you going to attach it to the wall? And can I remove it if I have to repair the wall, or things like that? It's more of the mechanics of it is what I think we need to look at. That's all I have. So is there anything else that we have? Open it up to the audience that's out here and also online. Does anybody have any comments issues they'd like to raise? Else if not, then I guess the meeting is adjourned. Thank you.